think the 0.1% of you guys who follow me on Facebook might have noticed I've been posting and making comments about this trial when it was going on. A bit of product placement, you know, this stuff, right? I've got into this stuff, Coca-Cola. But I've got into buying cans of it. Now, 8 cans of Coca-Cola is £4.50, and it doesn't matter where you go, you're not going to get them any cheaper. Coca-Cola are like, it's £4.50, fuck you. Wherever you go, it's always the same price. It's like, fuck you, it's £2.49 a bottle. Now, I used to buy myself a 1.75 litre bottle of Coke a week. And be like, right, that's not a great thing to be drinking, but 1.5 litres of it a week is not going to destroy me or kill me. Right? But I'm one of these people, if I have a bottle of pop in the fridge, I will open the bottle, because I'm the only one who drinks out of the bottle. There's nobody coming round. So it's mine, you know. So it gets drank mostly out of the bottle in swigs, and it's like you get halfway down it and the thing's gone flat and it's not very inviting. And this thing's nice because it's fizzy, it's refreshing. So it's like, if you want to control the amount of this nasty stuff you drink, start buying the cans. Because if you just fancy a swig, you're not opening a can. And it's always fizzy, and it's always like, it's got a sharpness to it. I don't drink any alcohol. I've got to get me cheap thrills one way or another. But I have it where sometimes I go, I try energy drinks. The sugar-free ones, I can't stand them. They're horrid. But it's like some of the ones with lots of sugar in and all kinds of things. From time to time, I try them. I try them as I go. And I don't think there's any better drink, actually, for giving you a bit of pep and a bit of a livener, a refreshing thing. I don't think there's any one of them better than Coca-Cola. It's the shit. This trial. There's a video out. I don't know if you saw the video. I was making a very flippant comment all week that she can't lose this trial where she's up for racial harassment against a white person because the law doesn't exist anymore to prosecute her for it. And something I've been pointing to, I'm not the only one who's pointed to it, is back when, it's years since now, when they were mouthing off and saying the definition of racism is, well, the definition of racism changed. So now if you go and check out the definition of racism, they've changed it. Now it's only something that white people can do to brown people. So black people can't actually be guilty of it because it doesn't exist. They changed the definition as to only something a white person could do to a black person. And then for years they went about reminding us of this and set about bullying and then say, and whenever they needed, hang on a minute, isn't that like reverse racism? They would say, there's no such thing as reverse racism. And that would be the end. No debate. And then they'd say, only a white person can be racist to a brown person. Only a white person can be racist. And they'd be like, the definition of racism, they changed it. So, when they changed the definition of racism, they changed all the laws with the word racism in. It was that blatant, and they've been doing it. They've been rubbing it in everyone's face for years. It's like, but when they were rubbing it in their face, they were shit testing all of us to say, this is the new normal. What are you going to do about it? And if you spoke out about it, well, it proved that you were racist. You know, you had an interest in the maintaining of the status quo. But this is an old war, right? And this law needed desperately to be tested, and it's been tested, and this horrendous bullying scumbag right? She's the one to benefit from it. As to there's something quite absurd about this. I'll show you a video, right? And you can decide as to how well this person's behaved, as to how she's got herself in trouble with the police for mouthing off and getting herself on on a racial harassment charge. Bearing in mind the story of this case is she puked up inside a guy's taxi, right? That's a fucking no. You do not do that ever, right? Because the taxi driver, fuck what your rights are, right? He's going to make a massive demand of a surcharge from you. Why? Because he's got to get that cleaned up and you've just taken him off the road for rest at shift, maybe even for tomorrow as well. No one's getting in a taxi smelling of your puke. And he might be spending real money at no notice getting that shit cleaned up, because it's a matter of, you can't just wipe that with a rag. If you've chundered all over his fucking door, right, which she has, you've put puke, you'll end up with like puke in all the mechanisms of the door. It's just got its way of finding its way everywhere. So what's that costing you? You used to get in a taxi. I think taxis have changed. Once upon a time, there always used to be black cabs. Black cabs, and then mini cabs came out. I remember them coming out. Mini cabs, radio cabs. Where a black cab, you could pick one up off the street and hail it, or call it. The other ones, you had to call them, just call them. It was like a private deal. Where the minicab guy, you'd get in that minicab and it'd have a price list in the back. And you'd be sat there and the driver would be looking at you like an extra mirror he's got. And there's a cage, so you can't beat on him. Right, and he's got a meter in front and you've got a meter in the back. These like the old London cabs, they used to have them all over the country. They used to be the normal thing. And there'd be a list there and it'd say, right, any of these things you do in this cab, it's going to cost you this much. There were always a sign in there saying, if you're sick in this taxi, it's going to cost you £50. There was always a sign. If you said to the taxi driver, stop the car, I'm going to be sick, he would stop and let you out. Right there. Because the worst thing for him, although with them old black taxis, right, they were set up, made in a certain way as to where you could in essence just rinse them out. Right? They were built with it in mind. But it's like the modern one, the car. No. A car, puking up in a car, you can fuck it for good because of all acids and stuff. You can actually, it needs to be specialist clean once you've puked in it. And if you've been on the fucking sauce, you've thrown out a load of fucking chemicals, haven't you? Like possibly a couple of pints of fucking rancid fucking alcohol pop fucking sugar infused nonsense, right? Like treacle. So you've got sticky sick all over your fucking car, right? So she don't give a fuck. She's a superstar. She's like, it's about me. She pukes up in his taxi and he says, look, this is costing you. And I think he's tried to lay on her. He wants £100. And he's been all right about it at that in this day and age. And she won't pay. And she's called the cop when he's locked the doors. She's called the cops. He says, right. Okay, fair enough. That's the law's on my side here. That's now criminal damage, that. I'm taking you to the police station. Since you want the police involved. I'll take you there. Let's have it out. So they've had it out with the police. But she's claiming to have called the cops on the guy. And he says, all right, okay, she's been on her phone. The police have got no record that she ever called the police. But the taxi driver believed that they had because they'd done the whole work calling the police. Hello, yes, I'd like to report her. some kind of, you know, whether they did it or they didn't. The police have got no record of ever receiving an emergency call from her to say she'd been taken hostage. But the guy driving the taxi believed it and said, fine, let's just drive to the local police station then, and drove them to the local police station with his car full of puke and said, look, right, sort this out. Right? So here's the video with the evidence of her criminal speak. And, right, I can see this and go, well, what a piece of shit person this is. We know the story now. We know what's happened. What a piece of shit she is. But The Guardian can write a 300-word article about how she in every way is a victim in this situation and how it's a disgrace how she wasn't believed because she's black. And that it's a sign of sort of patriarchy and white supremacists that she wasn't just believed, even though her version of the story is and basically a kind of psychotic shame overreaction to having puked in someone's car and being someone who can't handle anything in a mature way. But listen to this fucking nutter. This video contains strong language.
You guys are fucking stupid and white. Honestly, you guys are fucking stupid and white.
You're telling us to pay $500 because
Well,
of the
it's
damages
actually
when we
800.
couldn't get out.
But
We couldn't get out.
No,
like, the
we could not
situation.
get out of the car. Listen to the recording.
Okay,
We want to go to court. Listen to the recording.
500 for damage, that's about right, that. If they've rang one of them fancy Ubers who's turned up in a fucking decent motor, turned up in a Merc or something like that, a proper car to take them home, because that's the way of making proper money in that Uber, which they're, you know, taxi, the new taxi game, is to put on a car that people want to be picked up in. So when they said the guys asked for $500, it's about right for puking in someone's high-class car. Isn't it? But the incident, that the actual the sort of version of events that's been put to us, the Guardian version as to where she's the victim here, it admits the fact that she's done 500 quid worth of damage to someone's car. It just admits it. It just admits it. It just doesn't take it into consideration. Things just happen on a drunken night out, don't they? Who hasn't puked in someone else's expensive property? Who hasn't? It's just hijinks, isn't it? It gets a bit messy.
Because I've got all the people in the world.
okay, rather than talking at me.
Okay. Alright.
I like how she talks big as to say, I can sort of call in the whole world on my side. You see, the members of the LGBTQP plus community are generally very isolated people, but when they start to mouth off, they then crack on like they're a member of some huge army of demons. They all do it. The mom guy, call me mom guy. What do you think the LGBTQ community is going to think about this when I tell them? And sort of try and pull off this kind of imaginary mafia muscle trick. Suddenly I can point out that I can point everyone in the world when I say that you've racially abused me. I can call in the whole world if I show that you've misgendered me or whatever, disrespected my sexual identity. I can bring in the whole world on you. Has to mouth off like that because they all do. I put that up there with, you know, that story of Jesus with one of the original demons where there was a guy who had like multiple personality disorder or something. Jesus asked him, "Who are you?" "I am Legion, for I am many." It's like that. It's like there's not just me. You're not just dealing with me. You're dealing with the entire LGBTQP establishment. If you mess with me, you're messing with every anti-racist in the world. If you mess with me, it's the same thing that Jesus ran across all those years ago, where he cast out the demons and put them into pigs. Then the pigs like all topped themselves. I don't know about that part, but it's like that person who can like invoke the imaginary army of monsters. Same game, it's the same trick, it's the same fucking spell. I hate it when people do that. Oh, wait till the LGBT fight. It's like, what the fuck are you? Wait till your mother finds out. Wait till the teacher finds out. Wait till the headmaster finds out. Wait till your boss finds out. It's like, who are you? With your imaginary armies. I find imaginary armies almost hilarious. It's like people who sort of bring down the wrath of the LGBT umbrella upon someone. It's no different than someone cracking under a sorcerer saying, I'm sending an army of demons to attack. It's exactly the same game, exactly the same trick. It's like there are those susceptible to that form of suggestion. But to most others, they just see it as, oh, you and, okay, so now we know whose army. You and whose army, yeah, we know whose army now. Your imaginary army of internet fans and trolls and all those clever political links you made on the way up. Mouthing off like a big shot. Everybody loves this, the police especially. You know, the police are exceptionally experienced at dealing with this kind of behaviour. This is their bread and butter, people mouthing off like this.
As it stands,
Let me listen for
what
1
you've
second.
told me doesn't substantiate any offences. Tell me the offence that he's committed.
He would not let us go. He
Tell
was,
me-
he
tell me
was
the
holding
offence.
track. He
He was
was
holding
taxi
us
driver.
against
He
our
was
will.
holding us hostage. He was holding us
Babe,
hostage.
babe, he
But-
was holding us against our will.
But he's driven you to a police station.
Police as well.
Please.
Oh, calm down. Right,
We called police as well. We were held hostage in that cab.
Right.
But you guys, I feel
You
like
guys
you guys are
believe
listening to
him.
him.
No, I'm not believing anyone. But, right, you need to calm yourself down, young missy, didn't you?
£60, £100. We don't give a f. This guy's taking us hostage.
I've listened to you a lot because I had no choice to, because you're a very loud person.
But can you not
Stop.
listen to the
Stop.
recording in the van?
But there's no recording. There is no recording.
Of course.
Do you
Police
think?
station or not?
Do you think a taxi driver that was going to rape and kill you would drive you to a police station? No. you
You're
wouldn't,
sick.
would you?
You're honestly sick.
Well,
You were
I'm
saying
being tricky,
you're
actually.
literally a white privileged person. You're
Yeah.
literally a white privileged man.
Okay, but you don't need to be racist towards me.
What did you guys actually expect me to do? Like, just hope that I was gonna get home?
Stay on the phone to police.
We did hold
They
police.
hung up on me.
They hung up on us. Listen to the calling.
Okay, but there is unfortunately no record because I've asked.
Okay, so
Did you stay on the phone long enough to even speak to someone?
they
That's the
hung
thing.
up on us.
Okay, but they wouldn't do that though.
Faked phone call, hasn't she? Spoke the guy driving the cab so he drops her off here. That he takes them straight to the police station. They play the game of I'm calling the police on you. It's like, alright, okay. So you got a taxi driver who's in his way experienced at dealing with drunken bitches at like 2 a.m. puking up in a taxi. Tends to be people who tell lies and do whatever they can to get out of paying a massive fucking surcharge. And the way that apps work these days, where it comes straight out your bank account and stuff, be a matter of they might have some limited leverage to fucking enforce it. It might get you banned off a platform like Uber. It might get you banned. Might get you made a 1-star fucking pickup. You know, like, you rate the driver, well, the driver also rates you. So it'd be a matter of, now we don't want her job, she's a fucking idiot. Owes us money. Messed about with our shit. It's like, there's more than this lady's side to this, isn't there? There's a lot more, and it's a matter of, this copper charged her, and we see him charge her. It's not they're saying This guy made this claim after there'd been a fuss. It's like, no, we heard him. So the lawyers have made a case in court as to after, as in like seconds after she's been charged with racially aggravated mouthing off racism. But they're saying it was done after they're saying it's done after the original charge. And like, seconds after.
Oh my god.
They wouldn't do that. You should have spoken to
You guys
the.
are fucking stupid and white.
Fucking
Honestly, you guys are fucking stupid and white.
Right, I'll go over at the moment then at 3:17. You're under arrest for criminal damage because there's an allegation that you've smashed that taxi window. You're also under arrest for racially aggravated public order for the comments that you've said. So the reason, that's fine. The reason for your arrest.
Yeah, there and then at the same time as charging her for criminal damage, he charged her for racially aggravated. It's like they made the criminal damage charge go away, but the racially aggravated mouthing off, no, that weren't going away. It needed to be tested in court, that. You don't get to mouth off to people that you've called the cops on them and then they call you bluff and take you to the police station because you've committed a criminal damage by puking up all over their fucking expensive car. You don't get to use the police as a weapon on someone and then get to then call the police off when they decide to have a look at you for what you've been up to. You just don't get to do that. Now, the last celebrity who was in this shit was that Caroline Rack woman who ended up killing herself when she called the cops on her boyfriend during a domestic and the police turned up and found that it was indeed her who was the wrong one. And then she thought she could, because she'd then been caught herself in like criminal activity, she thought because she rang the police in the first place she had the right to uncall the police, and she could not process that. And she set about defending herself from the criminal justice system in a completely inappropriate way, which made matters worse, where she basically talked herself into going to jail. She talked herself into restrictive orders. She talked herself into people, the world, working out that she was a complete fucking psycho. And the papers played it one way as to the police are ruining this woman's life, and it's like, no, anyone who understands the law understands that she is committing legal suicide and there's people trying to make money off it. There's actually lawyers talking to an idiot now saying, I can get you off with this. And not a single person willing to give her the right legal advice, right? Because there's no money in it. The right legal advice is, I'm sorry, love, you've proper fucked up here. You just plead guilty and say you're absolutely terribly sorry. And actually own up to having wasted the police's time in the first place. And say you're sorry and take the fine. But she couldn't do that. She still couldn't understand how, because she called the police in the first place, the police weren't there to do her bidding and she'd been somehow mistreated. It's like you're say something crazy like you're like the biggest fucking sort of crack house in the fucking world. You know, like the top crack house in the worst place, right? And the place is full of all kinds of fucking people who are basically on the run from life, getting wasted, and a fight breaks out in that place, and someone calls the cops. And the cops turn up, and when they get in the place to break up the fight and find out what's happened, they find all the crack in the fucking world. And then suddenly they arrest you for possession of all this crack, and you say, you can't arrest me for all this crack. I called you. No, I called you. You're here to throw out my ex-boyfriend. No, you can't do me for all these drugs. I called you about him. This is none of your business. That's what Caroline Rack did. It's like the law and the notion of what's fair and right and wrong and legal. is such an alien to you. When it appears, you think it's an alien. It's like it's a completely unreasonable thing that's speaking a different language. But the Guardian version, but the Guardian posts this. This is their edit. I just showed you their edit of her mouthing off to police. Their version of this. There's only one victim here. She's the victim. The objection, the Guardian, is that why wasn't her report of being kidnapped believed? Kidnapping is a serious crime. Why wasn't she believed? And it's because it was a tale she told to get the upper hand when someone in her mind had pulled the rug under her because they wanted £500 off of her puking up in a taxi. So it's like, turn this case into something else, and wow, you can go anywhere with it. You can make it world news like the likes of The Guardian did. You can call it a victory for women's rights and social justice because she's black, or she says she's black. I don't see that she's black. Anyway, I don't see that she's black. I don't see that she would be someone who'd go around saying that she's black, but for the purposes of what her needs of the day was, she became a black woman. Where normally she probably identifies as an Australian lesbian, yeah? As captain of the Australian football team. She's an Australian lesbian and she wears that with like a great big smile, right? All the time. That's her shtick. Her usual thing is to play the I'm a lesbian, I want more game. But when it suited her, because she was losing an argument and she was in the wrong, she immediately became this black person and started to aggressively play the race card to belittle the person who was trying to get to the truth of the matter. And it's like the copper seems to have put the story together as far as I go. He seems to have put the story together having done his job properly and listened to all sides. And the police deal with drunken women telling lies every day. They're used to it. She's mouthing off to exactly the right people. They've heard all this before. This is the kind of things people say when they've been arrested when they're full of drunk. They're full of drink. She's just another drunk. It doesn't actually matter that she's captain of the Chelsea women's football team and captain of the Australian women's football team. She thinks that matters and this cop doesn't give a fuck. He sees drunken women behaving badly every week. But all that has to be disregarded, and according to The Guardian, yay, after telling officers about their alleged ordeal, their claims were quickly dismissed. Kerr describes feeling antagonised by officers and said her treatment was a racial fucking thing. She also made them asked them to believe women for once. Listen and believe. Good one. I hadn't heard that for a while. And made several references to Sarah Everhard, because it's just the same thing, isn't it? Did Sarah Everhard fucking puke on someone's fucking livelihood? No, she didn't, did she? So it's nothing like Sarah Everhard, apart from Sarah Everhard was a woman too, like most people. Seriously, you can say most people. There's more women than me. Like most people. That's all they've got in common, apart from that they both had heads. And arseholes. Really? During the exchanges, Lovell called her Little Missy. Yeah, she was acting up like a child, wasn't she? But if you remove that context from him calling her Little Missy, it seems like he's being rather patronising. Which, you know, that's what she was being to the copper. I can't fucking believe this is the thing. The Guardian, right? Show the video and then do a written version of it that's completely biased as to where she is the victim. Kerr's lawyer, Grace Forbes, called the conduct of the police and their failure to take the couple's claim seriously, completely unacceptable, and said Kerr and Mewis had described allegations of dangerous driving and false imprisonment against the driver. No further inquiries were made into their claims. They'd puked all over his car and then pretended to call the cops on him. So he took him to the police station. What would you have done? Lefty lawyer. On the night, Kerr and Mules told officers they had called police from inside the taxi. Yeah, they played the... obvious. Yeah. It didn't take me long to pick up on how this game went. Officers doubted their assertions, saying they had no records of their call. They've pretended to call the cops on this guy, so he's gone, right, let's go to the police station. Let's let them sort it out, shall we? If you're going to call the cops on me and accuse me of kidnapping when you've puked on my car, what's the right thing to do there? Come on, you some smart kids out in the world here. What would I have done? Exactly what he did. What would most taxi drivers do? Exactly what he did. How might I have an idea about this? Father's a taxi driver. Uncle, he were a milkman for years and he then became a taxi driver for 20 years. Other uncle, taxi driver. Basically, taxi drivers, my family mostly taxi drivers, and then the people I know, a great deal of them, families, taxi drivers, mates, sons of taxi drivers too. Used to be a thing that people did because there was an illusion of sort of freedom about it, as to where you can tell anyone to fuck off when you're a taxi driver. Once upon a time, worth doing. These days, too much traffic on roads, you can't escape from what the roads are at rush hour. You are going to be in it somewhere, so a few hours a day you're hardly getting paid. But these Uber types, they can make money at it. Because that waiting time, all that traffic time, is factored into fare. It's a model that works, so it's different now. But it's still the same trade. What do you do if you get somebody who's difficult in your taxi? Because it's about your safety as well. You don't know them silly bitches aren't going to stab you. You don't know that. There are women out in the world who might. You got to think about when they're starting to mouth off and use big words and pretend to call the cops. What are you going to do? The only option is to take them to the nearest police station. You have to protect yourself. It's the responsible and professional thing to do if you end up in a difficult situation as a taxi driver. Plenty of taxi drivers in my part of the world find themselves getting robbed and killed. And it'd be something that happens. But it'd be something that happens less with better technology nowadays, where somebody always knows where these guys are. It's easier to find them. But Rochdale, yeah, there's taxi drivers aplenty found themselves getting killed, robbed. It's a dangerous job because you have to, when someone rings, you have to turn up. You don't know that guy's just left a house where he's done a murder, do you? Getting a taxi away from the scene of a crime is a good way of getting away. So taxi drivers live in this world of that. That day might come when that fucking complete idiot gets in your car and something bad happens. That day is always ahead of them. And you fuck with those people like that, so what they're going to do? They'll take you to a police station. Taxi drivers, right? Good ones that operate for a long time, the police get to know, seeing them around, and that's never changed. Right? So they'll have an idea that they will, in their way, work in cooperation. Certainly night taxi drivers. It's good for them to be known by the police. It's good for them to be familiar as to where, yeah, these guys are reliable, they're professional, they know that, you know, do the job right and people will continue to use the service. Do the job wrong and the word gets out about a dodgy taxi driver, everyone's like, oh, fucks it up for everyone. Taxi drivers know this. So when one of them's a dick, it reflects badly on all. And at the same time, they're people who find themselves in danger. Fuck. To be a taxi driver nowadays, it's like the brave men not to be doing it armed. Certainly in London. Taxi drivers are like, in some ways like the police. They don't really get to turn anyone down. Someone rings, taxi arrives, they get in the car. You can get in the car and you can say, oh God, no, you stink, you're filthy, get out of my car. You know you're not getting in my car like that. If you've just covered in shit. They can do that. That's the limit of their powers, but you ring them, they turn up. They can be taxi drivers, the easiest people in the world to ambush. And they know it. That's why somebody always knows where they went. They're easy to ambush. Those guys live in that world and you fuck with them. What are they going to do? They're going to take you to the nearest police station. She thinks her big shot status means that, oh, this guy obviously knew I was fucking famous footballing, highly paid. She's on super wages. She's on proper football money, that one as well. She's a rich lady. She's like a couple of £1 million a year contract sort. Supposedly an ambassador of the game. I'm such a big shot. Well, this guy asking for this somehow inconvenienced him because it seems that throwing up on someone's car is bad. Well, when I do it, you should feel like you're... when I puke in your car, I've done you a favour. Oh, now you're ungrateful for me throwing up in your car. Okay, I'm going to call those. See what the police think about this. Various points in the exchange, Kerr showed Lovell a bank account and made reference to lawyers. Look at all my money. I'm going to get you in trouble. At various points in the exchange, Kerr showed Lovell, he's the cop, bank account and made reference to lawyers. Kerr told the court that she tried to make a show of her privilege and make myself feel protected because she felt powerless in the situation. She was threatening that copper, showing him how much money she had in the bank and talking about how she had so much money for lawyers. That's an incredibly threatening behaviour. And to a copper, right? That's enough to get you locked up. If you mouthed off to a copper like that, anywhere, if you were anyone but the captain of Liverpool, you'd have talked your way into a guilty there. For real? You show off about how rich you are and then mouth off that you're going to hire lawyers to destroy this copper because he doesn't believe your tales of kidnapping. And she won, and the Guardian portraying her as being the victim here. It was Lovell. It was after Lovell doubted her assertion she had called police for a second time when she called him fucking stupid and white, which prompted her arrest. A short while after this, she came into contact with a female officer and broke down sobbing because she felt like someone was going to finally help us. Oh, a woman, oh please. Like, brain damaged, fucking crackpot, feminist, lesbian, man hater. When the woman arrived, oh, finally someone's going to help us get me away from this terrible, terrible white supremacist patriarchy. The case is likely to spark a wider debate about free speech and race, particularly around how people of colour can express their opinions and grievances. All right, okay, so this is about protecting her right to threaten the police with suing them and calling them names. Been a number of high-profile cases involving people of colour being charged with racially aggravated public order offence. Kerr, whose father was born in India, identifies as white Anglo-Indian. Maria Hussein, a British Asian woman, was charged with such an offence last May after depicting former UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and former Home Secretary Suella Braverman as coconuts at a pro-Palestinian rally. She was found not guilty months later. Yes, because they've changed the definition that only black people can be racist to only white people can be racist to black people, and that black people can't be racist to one another. So people who want to attack black people, who want to attack other black people, are allowed to use every single racial epithet against them. N-word, anything you want. They can say anything they want to each other. The only time racism actually happens is when a white person does it to a black person, and that's the only way that it works. That's the only now way the law functions. So when this black woman called those, it's like a coconut, it's like calling someone an Uncle Tom. You're white on the inside. You're a white person. You're white. You're part of whiteness. Yeah? That's not illegal. We don't have a law at the moment that can prosecute that. They've changed the fucking definitions of the words. So of course the black woman is going to win. Her defence lawyer will make the case that you can't be racist to a black person, cannot be racist to a black person. Only a white person can be racist. So they make that argument and they get off every time they get off. Because the law does no longer exists to be able to take action against them. So when this case comes up and she's guilty as sin and it's coming through, I'm like, she's getting off with this. Why? Because the law doesn't exist anymore to put her down for it. She's committed no offence, because no offence exists anymore because of the way that not the law's been changed, right? The laws, right, for this were written between 96 and about 2012, right? But the definition of the word racism was changed around 2014, 2015, and that has retroactively changed all our fucking laws where it comes to this. And it's been going on, and it's been going on, and it's been going on, and it's like this high profile version of it has shown it up. The law does not exist anymore as a mechanism that can put that woman in prison or else whatever for this offence. It's not a prison offence, is it? She should get fined to Billy O. And even have questions asked about what the fuck is she doing in this country. She's behaving like this, and she's a guest of this nation on a fucking work permit because she's a footballer. Now, it's a funny old thing that exemption from any kind of vetting process whatsoever when one person is good at football, as to where work permits for foreign people suddenly become available and bang. She's a guest in this country. She's a foreigner on a work permit. So it's a matter of that. If you wanted to, if the state wanted to really go in hard on her, it'd be a matter of you question that. Just actually put that to her. Don't throw her out of the country or anything, but put it to that, as to give her a fine reprimand about the way that she talks to the authority figures in this country, and a reminder that she's here on a work permit. And she's not been a very gracious guest to this country that pays fucking 60 grand a week or something like that. That's the line. That's the way it should go. But there's no longer any mechanism in the law for him to come to that right verdict on this. Lefty lawyer can just argue the case that there's no offence. That there can only that there can only be one victim based on skin colour, and that the cop was white. That's all there is, and that's all they have to argue. So you always win. Last March, a black man was acquitted after being charged with regularly aggravated malicious communications for sending a raccoon emoji to a black conservative politician on social media. Okay, what's that about? Well, a raccoon is black and white, but it's mostly about this word. right? What's one of them? I'm not allowed to even say that. That get me in trouble saying that. That's what black people call other black people who don't go along with the racial supremacist victim narrative. They get called those. Yeah? That's what they call you. Right? So that, when you hear that word, right, or see that, it's a matter of this is a big deal when a black person is trying to bully another black person. This word, right? Amongst them, you can use the N-word with other... Black people can use the N-word amongst each other, and they see it like the C word, like we do in Rochdale. As to call someone a cunt is not the worst thing to call them. They can be a funny cunt. They be the cunt you like. So your best friend is in his own way a cunt for this or that. Right? So to us it can be like a term of affection. Because we use it so often, it's like the F word. It's got many different meanings. You know, the original meaning of the F word was to just basically pummel someone. To fuck someone was to just pummel them. You know, it was a violent term that got adapted towards sex. As to where there is in the sort of psyche and you know, in like biochemistry, there is a link between fighting and fucking. Well, the word fuck recognises that. As to where the first uses of the word fuck would be to say we're gonna gang up and beat him up. That we're gonna fuck that guy meant that we were gonna beat him up. But it gained its sexual connotation as the word evolved. But it's like there's words, so that's a word that gets used for everything, isn't it? Fuck, something's fucked means it's broken. Oh, it's fucked. And if you were to turn up with a gearbox in any place in the world and say that it's fucked, they would understand that this is broken beyond repair, right? So it's like it's that kind of it's a word that's becoming that way flexible. The N word amongst the black population, it's becoming that way flexible, like we've made the C word flexible. But this word isn't flexible. A black person doesn't use this word to another black person without meaning something, and that is to call one a traitor against one's own kind, one's own blood, one's own tribe, one's own people. And for a black man acquitted to be charged with racially aggravated and malicious communication for calling a black conservative politician is yeah, that's a clear-cut case. Yeah, you are playing a real game there, a game that people know about but get away with because of the idiosyncrasies of the way that the political correctness laws are written. Yeah, speaks for itself. Unlike in those cases where comments were directed at other people of colour, Kerr aimed her comments at a white man. Despite mainstream discussion in recent years about race, power and privilege based on skin colour, Kerr's high-profile trial shows that, in the UK at least, these debates have little bearing on the law. It's hard done by. Or as prosecutor Bill Emlyn Jones told the court, the law does not discriminate between different races when it comes to racist language. But it does, because the other side were able to go in front of a jury and make the case that you can't be racist to a white person. And he, you know, she got off. Every one of them got off. They all got off. See, the law doesn't exist anymore. In the minds of the people, certainly. The law, they brought this case up and it's like, well, yeah, it's an open and shut case of, by one way of reading the law, the right way of reading the law, it's that. But no, this new lefty way of reading the law, the lawyer gets it, gets to the jury, makes the case of privilege and makes it all about race and sexuality and puts a shadow or an idea in the mind of the handpicked jury of probably mostly women that white man bad. They've set the thing in motion to work on that basis, and then suddenly, well, there isn't an offence here. He's got all the privilege. She has none of the power. She's a powerless black woman, and this man's not listening to her. The case to be made to say, nah, she's a drunken thug who's threatening people, mouthing off, pretending to ring the cops, and then threatening, showing a bank balance to the cop and saying, I'm getting lawyers to get you in trouble. No, that's all perfectly acceptable behaviour. She's got the right to do that because she felt threatened. It's like our laws in this country in this regard were subverted years ago, and no one were bothered. We just go from case to case of see what happened here, see what happened here. And they got subverted years ago, and it just goes on and on and on. And it takes for one as well, they've got video like this as to yeah, if you're going to get done for mouthing off, she's mouthed off. There's no way past it. She's been a threatening bitch. She's thrown a muscle around. She's called in the imaginary army of the LGBTQ plus and all her fans. She's had a massive Australian chip on her shoulder, making herself almost a caricature of what Australians are in the minds of many. She's basically made people from her culture and background appear to be exactly what most people assume Australians to be: uncouth, thugs, bullies, if they're allowed to get away with it. She's crystallised the Australian identity in the mind of the POM, that this is the way they behave. Well done, Captain of Australia. You just reinforced the axioms and ideologies as to where the England cricket team will always in their way to understand something of Australia as to where they can get at them and make them hurt. Because when faced with real repercussions for their actions, they behave like children. And when they think they can get away with bullying, they bully. And when they're shown that they can't get away with it, they immediately play the victim.